Hey everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here. So then, at work the other night in the change room, and I was listening to Cheap Trick's Heaven Tonight, my latest tutorial, and one of my co-workers comes in and asks what I'm listening to, and I said I'm working on a tutorial for this track. He said maybe one of these days you should try to do a tutorial for a song that somebody's actually heard before. I just laughed. Now I know that I'm prone to seeking out the deep cuts for most of my tutorials, but let's change that up a little bit today, shall we? Because today we're going to have a look at Love Removal Machine by The Cult. I trust that most of you have heard this one before. I used to play this one in a cover band back in the 80s, so it fell back under my fingers pretty easily when I sat down to relearn it yesterday. That's it. Let's close in and get started, yeah? Good then, Love Removal Machine, Billy Duffy and The Cult from Electric. We are in standard tuning for this tutorial. We have a nice solid crunch on our amp for this one, and the opening riff to this one goes a little something like this. And repeat. So we're starting with a D bar chord here at the 5th fret position. You're going to strike that once on the downstroke, 4 middle strings, then you're going to drop your pinky on the sus on the 8th fret of the B string, hit that twice on the downstroke, and then choke it off. Right, kind of like that. Now we're going to go back off to the D bar chord. We're going to go off, on of that sus. Kind of like that. Then we're going to drop it off to C, start it the same way, strike the C bar chord, drop onto the sus on the 6th of the B, hit that twice, right, choke it off, and then into a G power chord. All 6 strings, right, muting out the A string with the pad of your middle finger, striking that like 4 or 5 times, right, and then right back to D, start the whole thing over again. Now, I think that riff progression goes through 4 repeats before the vocals come in, and when the vocals do come in for the first verse, we're going to drop the second half of this out of the equation for the first half of the verse. That off, on, off, on. We're going to strike the D, drop onto the sus, hit it twice, and then we're going to rest for a bar and a half. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to go off to C, do the same thing, and then drop into G. And repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, C, G. Second half of the verse, we're going to add that off, on of the sus back into the equation. Right, and at this point we drop into the chorus. Chorus right there, bit of an abbreviated chorus, the first one, and so we're starting with a double hit of this 3rd fret of the low E, G note here. I'm going to roll that down to this C note here on the 3rd fret of the A, go off to open, drop onto the 4 of the A, and back off to open. Kind of like that, right? And then you're going to drop into a D5 chord. Don't drop into a full D chord because we're not really touching upon the high E string. So after you strike that D5 chord, you're going to drop onto the 3rd fret of the A string while still holding the D5 chord, give it a little bit of a waggle, and then go back to the D5 chord, strike it 3 or 4 times. And then after you strike that D5 chord a couple of times, you're going to drop onto the 3 of the D, give it a full step bend release, off to D again, and then you're going to drop into a C9, 4 middle strings, drop onto the 3rd fret of the A while still holding this 3 of the B, mute out the D string with the pad of your middle finger, so you're striking the 4 middle strings twice, and then you're going to drop it up to G and do the same thing, mute out the A string, right, so it's more of a power chord. And then you're going to repeat it. However, we're not going to start it with double G's this time. We're going to start it with double A's before dropping onto that 3 and then the 4, right? I think it's only the first chorus that he does this. I think every other chorus going forward, he starts with the double G's. But the first chorus, he goes off to open A. Bum, 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 bum. Let that G ring for about a bar, drop into the second verse, which I believe the vocals come in immediately, so we're going to rest, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, C, G. 1, 2, 3, 4, G. Second half of the verse, we add that off on, back in. Right into another chorus. And I think this chorus, they just continue through another playthrough of the chorus, right? And that leads into the guitar solo. Just a great guitar solo put down by Billy Duffy on this one. Gonna run through it first and then I'll show you guys how to play it. Just gonna get a little bit more gain here, and it goes something like this. I think that's the solo right there. So we're soloing in the key of D minor, using the D minor pentatonic for the most part. In the middle of the solo, he gets a little Dorian flavored run there, but we'll get to that when we get to it. We're starting here on the 12th fret of the G string. We're going to give that a full step bend, and we're going to pick it at the top, very choppy, very staccato, about 11 times. And then finally release it off to 10, right? Right back into another full step bend that you're just going to let hang up there for about a bar, right? Right, then you're going to drop your pinky down here on the 13 of the B string, right back to the bend, off to 10, grab that 13 of the B again, and go back to the 10 of the G. Right, and then we're into this little repeating lick. The classic little blues lick there. Bending the 12 of the G, double hit on this 10 of the B, and then we're going to get this repeating lick looping, right? Just little pull-offs from 13 off to 10, right? And then right back into that bend again and just get it looping. If you catch a little bit, just, you know, you're just holding a bar here on the 10s. If you catch a little bit of that high E, great, sounds fine. Kind of like that, right? You're going to repeat that about 6 or 7 times. You know, it's very loose, right? And then after you repeat that 6 or 7 times, we drop into this. So we're going to drop into a full step bend on the 13 of the high E. And then we're just going to ride right up the pentatonic. Like that. 10 onto 13 of the B, 10 onto 12 of the G, 10 onto 12 of the D. And then you resolve that off to the 8 of the A. Right into this. So coming off that 8 of the A, we're going to drop onto 10 of the low E, back to the 8, back to the 10, back to the 8. Grab the the 10 of the A, slide it into 12, and resolve it to the 10 of the D. Going to pick that again, hammer it onto 12, and finish on the 10 of the G. Right, and then we're into this little lick that I mentioned earlier. Right there, and it's very quick. He's hammering on 10 to 12 of the G, and then 10, 12, 13 of the B, and then 10, 12, 13 of the high E. And you're going to pick that one twice, the 13 twice, and then go into a full step bend. Kind of like that, right? And finishing the first half of the solo with this. So off to 10, a little trill between 10 and 13, and then going up to the 13 of the B, and then back to the 10 of the high E. And then pulling off 13 off to 10 of the B, up to 12 of the G, back to the 10 of the B, and finishing with a full step bend on that 13 of the B string. Kind of like that. And that's the first half of the solo, right? Pinky. Repeating lick. Right, now at this point the rhythm drops off to G, and we're going to drop off to G as well with this lick. Right there, so we're in the G minor pentatonic here, double stop on the 3s of the G and the B, and then 5 off to 3 of the D. Then you're going to, after you go 5 off to 3 of the D, you're going to go 5 off to 3 of the G, and 5 off to 3 of the D again. Pick that 3 twice, hammer it back onto 5. After you hammer back onto that 5, you're going to go down to the 3 of the G, string skip up to the 5 of the A. You're going to pick that 5 of the A twice, and then you're going to go back down to the 3 of the G. And then resolve that to the 5th of the D, right? Coming off that 5th of the D, you're going to go 3, back onto 5 of the G, right into a full step bend. Grab the 6 of the B string with your pinky, and then right back into that bend. Release that bend back to the natural note, pull it off to 3 and back onto 5. Again with this repeating lick again. Right, exact same as it was before. Kick started with a little double hit of that 10th of the B after the bend. And again, you catch a little bit of that high E, great. And then we finish with this. So after the repeating lick, drop onto that 13 of the high E, bend, release. Little trill between 10 and 13, finishing on the 13 of the B. Right, and then you're going to do the same thing from the B to the G. Right, finishing on the 12 of the G. And then just 12 off to 10, back onto 12 of the G to finish the solo. Right back into another chorus. Right, so let's recap that solo nice and slow, and then we'll be done. Let it hang, pinky. Repeating lick. Right off to G. right, and that finishes the solo right there. Back into another chorus. Right, repeated 4 times, final time drop into that G, just let it ring, right? And then we're into the outro riff, which just continues until the end of the track. That right there. D5 chord, grab that 3 of the A, back to the D5, and then you're just going to drop onto that 3 of the A again, up to the 3 of the low E, back to the 3 of the A, and get it looping. Right, kind of like that. Shake it, don't break it, baby. And then he starts soloing over that again, back into this repeating lick in D. Right, that same lick again. Then he gets into some double stop bends. Stuff like that, right? Little licks like that. Not going to get in too much into this outro solo, but right at the very end he gets into this. Classic little blues lick, barring the 10th fret here of the B and the high E, bending that 12, right, 5 or 6 times. Right, then he gets in the unison bends here on the 10 of the high E, 13 of the B, 5 or 6 times. And right at the end, big full step bend on that 13 of the high E, end of solo, end of track. And there you go. That is how you play Love Removal Machine by The Cult. Certainly hope you enjoyed that, found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Maybe drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind. Hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may find you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.